Hi everyone, and welcome to the second part of this masterclass series where I talk about mastering life transitions. So in the first video, I've talked about how to create emotional safety for embracing changes with more ease and trust. So if you haven't watched it yet, I really invite you to check it out here. So in this video, I'm going to dive into how to move from avoidance to freedom while staying grounded and secure as you take steps towards change. So if you're struggling to recognize what you truly want in your life and have clarity in any area of your life, start by identifying what you are avoiding, because the things that you resist often hold the key to the clarity that you're searching for, and this creates the change. And I've been shown many times that the more I face what I avoid, the more I create space for new things to come into my life. So how do we recognize what we are avoiding? So avoidance often comes with excuses like, well, I'm too lazy to do that, or I'm too busy to take care of this now. One of my friends recently told me, Noemi, I believe in divine timing. It's not the time right now. While I also believe in divine timing, when we, dug a little bit deeper, she really felt triggered about facing what she was avoiding. So if something triggers you, it's often a sign of resistance. And when there is resistance, there is a lack of acceptance. And we usually experience emotional reactions when it comes to things that we fear or we avoid. So look for signs of discomfort, anxiety, or resistance when thinking about a task, a conversation, or a decision, because this might be a sign of avoidance. Procrastination can also be a sign of avoidance, because if you repeatedly put off tasks or find excuses not to address something, it's often a sign that you are avoiding it. So to uncover what you are avoiding, try asking yourself these questions. What task or decision do I keep putting off? What makes me feel uncomfortable or anxious when I think about it? What situations or people do I consistently try to avoid? What do I feel resistant to discussing with others? To start confronting what I was avoiding, I created an avoidance list, which is a simple but powerful tool that helped me bring awareness to the fears, the tasks, and the emotions that I had been pushing aside. So naming and acknowledging these avoidance patterns is the first step toward addressing them, rather than, letting them silently hold you back. So I decided to write down the things that I was avoiding, because there is a big difference between thinking about what we avoid and writing it down. When we put our thoughts on paper, we are given the opportunity to face them directly. So writing creates radical honesty. It makes our fears tangible, which help us process and move through them. So you can create your own avoidance list by making a table with 2 columns. In the first column, write down what you are avoiding and the worst case scenario. So basically what you feel will happen if you face what you avoid. And you can start your sentence with, if X happens, then it means Y. And here are a few examples. If I quit my job, I will have no money and end up in the streets. If I ask for a raise or increase my prices, I will be rejected. If I tell my friend I didn't like her behavior, she will be offended and she will stop talking to me. So this works because writing down your fears help externalize them, which make them feel less overwhelming. And it allows you to analyze them more objectively, process your emotion, and reduce anxiety. Because everything that we avoid stay in the back of our minds, which creates mental charges and stay in our energy field too. And often we don't even recognize that avoidance is rooted in fear until we see it clearly written in front of us. So, for example, I was talking with a friend a few weeks ago, and we were talking about a conversation that she was avoiding with her husband. And the conversation that was that he had asked her to declutter and remove some of her clothes in their closet to make more space for both of them. Even though she had many clothes she didn't wear anymore, she kept resisting the idea, and she was feeling triggered every time that he was starting a conversation about this. And at first, she thought that she was simply annoyed by his request, and she was telling him like, well, I love to have choices, so I keep my clothes. But then when we explored it further, she realized that she had a fear, and she believed that letting go of her clothes meant losing a part of her identity, as she associated herself with, as she associated her clothing with self-expression and uniqueness. And she was also avoiding the truth that some of her clothes no longer fit, which will force her to confront the way she was feeling about her body too. So obviously it felt better and safer for her to avoid this conversation with her husband. So your turn now. Take a moment to write down the things you've been avoiding. What are the fears behind them? What's the worst case scenario you imagine? And this simple practice can bring powerful clarity, helping you move forward with greater awareness and confidence. There is always a deeper reason behind everything that we avoid. And I also want to share my own experience, because this process was incredibly eye-opening for me and brought up unexpected feelings, including feelings of guilt, feelings of shame. I could physically feel the resistance in my body, and I had thought like, I'm not gonna write this. There is no way I'm gonna write this. Even though it was just me and a piece of paper, no one else will see that, yet the shame still surfaced. So as you write, you might notice physical sensations like yawning, laughing, coughing, or even tearing up. These are all natural ways your body releases pent-up emotions. So pay attention to how writing down your fears make you feel, but do so without judgment. And don't hold back. Sometimes a thought or fear might come up that doesn't seem rational, and you might think some things like, this doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to write this down. But this is where we stop ourselves. I've learned that even if something doesn't logically make sense to my conscious mind, it's still worth writing down. So let yourself be radically honest, and this is where true clarity begins. So once you've identified what you are avoiding, whether it's a conversation, a person, or an action, and that you outlined your worst case scenario, take a moment to challenge the belief behind it. You can ask yourself, is this belief true? Is this empowering? Is it helpful to hold on to this belief? And if the answer is no, you have the power to reshape the narrative. Instead of assuming the worst case scenario, you can choose to create a more empowering one, both on paper and in your mind. And this is your responsibility and your choice. So as you know, our beliefs shape our reality. And by becoming aware of what we choose to believe, we take full ownership of our situation. If you decide to create a more empowering scenario, ask yourself, what do I want this new perspective to look like? There are two key principles to consider when rewriting a scenario. Make it achievable and realistic. Stay open to flexibility and unexpected opportunities. But the truth is, anything can happen, right? The outcome is uncertain. But the way you choose to perceive the situation will define how you experience it. So while you can't predict the outcome, you can control your reaction to it. So here are a few examples of new perspective and scenario. So if I quit my job, I will attract new opportunities and connections that align with my core values and bring me closer to my true calling. If I talk to my friend about her behavior, it could strengthen our relationship through honesty. Even if she reacts negatively, it will give us both a chance to grow and understand each other better. If I open up to my partner about the way I feel, I will finally be honest with myself. And this truth will help me build a deeper connection and relationship, based on integrity and trust. So when we go back to our table, we have the first column that lists our fears and worst case scenario, while the second column presents the more empowering perspective that we choose to adopt. So once you have both scenarios, add a third column and assign a rating to each of them using a scale from 0 to 10, where 10 means I can act on this now, and 0 means I am not ready to face this yet. And if you organize everything in a table, this will allow you to refer back to it whenever you need. So my recommendation is to prioritize the ones rated 9 or 10. And these are often small tasks that you've been avoiding, things you've told yourself you're too busy or unmotivated to do. On my avoidance list, I had tasks that I was clearly putting off, like ending big project, have tough conversation with people, big challenges that I consider were no longer aligning with my own values. Then there were smaller, easier tasks that I've rated 9 or 10, like scheduling a blood test, decluttering my closet, wash my car, organizing my mailbox with thousands of unread email, bringing my whole laptop to the store. Even though, those little tasks seem insignificant, all of them drain our energy. They are the things we tend to push off for later, but in reality, we're simply avoiding them. And the truth is, the more we create space by facing this avoided task, the more room we make for positive change. So once you've done that, schedule this task rated 9 or 10 in your calendar. And when you take action on the small avoided task, you send a signal to your mind and your body that you are capable of facing what you've been putting off. And this builds momentum and confidence because this will help you in the future to deal with bigger challenges. And over time, your brain begins to recognize that avoidance doesn't bring relief or safety, but facing things does. Big life changes often require us to speak our truth, not just to others, but first to ourselves. And it's one thing to write down our fears, but it's another to express ourselves about what we truly want. And I've learned that dishonesty happens when we want something, but we act differently. We may want to say something important to someone, but stay silent out of fear. We may want to leave our job or a relationship that doesn't serve us, but we stay telling ourselves it's not that bad or it's not the right time. We may feel we deserve more, but hesitate to ask, doubting ourselves or fearing rejection. These small moments of avoidance can build up over time. When we suppress our truth, it can cause frustration, stress, and physical discomfort. And something I do often and that I recommend to my clients is practicing radical honesty with ourselves. So if you've been avoiding a conversation, record yourself practicing it. Take your phone camera and record yourself speaking your truth to the person or to yourself. If you feel stuck in a situation, write down what you would say to your boss, to your partner, to your friend. If you struggle to ask what you deserve, practice saying it out loud. So when I first tried recording myself on video, I felt a lot of resistance. And I had thought like, this won't help, this is a waste of time, why would I do that? And all of this thought was my mind trying to keep me safe and in my comfort zone. But it's up to us to show our bodies what truly safety feels like. So I decided to give it a try. I had nothing to lose since I wasn't going to send the video, right? So I was convincing myself, I'm not gonna send this anyway, I'm just gonna do that. And as I made the video, I felt very uncomfortable. And I sometimes had releasing tears. And afterward, I realized that I was still okay, that I hadn't died, and I had spoken my truth to myself. So it made me feel more open and ready to speak my truth in other conversations too. So think about the conversation or actions that you've been avoiding. Take a moment to record yourself, whether it's saying something to yourself that you've never admitted or practicing a conversation you want to have with someone. If it's with yourself, you can start your conversation with yourself by saying, I want this, but I do this. This is being radical honest. And if it's with someone else, begin your sentence by saying, hey, I want this, but I feel afraid of this. So pay attention to the thoughts you have while doing this and notice how you feel afterwards. More you're going to practice this, the more trust you're going to feel within yourself.